Hello, hello, hello. Hey, hey, hey. I hope you're having a great day. I am Hannah, aka the Paperback Bruncher. You may have noticed my background is a little less lovely than usual. It is Mother's Day weekend, and we are making do at the in laws. So these are some makeshift shelves with some gorgeous books because I had to pack an entire bag full of books just to celebrate these authors that are joining me today. And this is a brand new series that I'm going to be starting here this summer. It's called Forced Proximity because I am forcing these romance authors to hang out with me because I adore them. And I want to make sure that you all get to know them, get to know their books, and adore them as well. So I will be introing each of these authors. Make sure, of course, to follow them all on social media. Add their books to your want to read shelves on Goodreads and Storygraph. And once you read them, review them because it's super, super helpful. All right, starting with the lovely Falon Ballard. Falon Ballard loves to write about love. She has an undying affection for exclamation points, hell yes, and isn't ashamed to admit it. When she's not writing about fictional love stories, she's helping real life couples celebrate, working as a wedding planner in Southern California. Maybe I need to relocate my wedding. She has a deep appreciation for the MCU, aka the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is a Disneyland devotee, and is a reality TV aficionado. When she's not busy wrangling her kiddo, you can probably find her drinking wine, posting a picture on Instagram, and simultaneously snarking on Twitter because multitasking. Hello, Falon. Welcome. Woohoo! This is the crowd. I have to mimic all of them. So, one voice, super loud.
That's an amazing welcome. Thank you.
Of course. I always tell authors it's kind of fun to have someone else read your bio because it's like, I don't know, like you're getting this like on stage moment. You're like, oh shit, like that is me. Like that's my life. That's cool.
Amazing.
And of course, we've got a couple other romance authors joining us. Next up, we've got the iconic Nikki Payne, a curious tech anthropologist. I love the diversity here. Romance author and tech. Couldn't be me. At asking the right questions to deliver better digital services. I have questions. By night, she dreams of ways to subvert canon literature. She's a member of Smut U, a premium feminist writing collection. And a cat lady with no cats. Woohoo, Nikki! With those glasses. Also, we're going to have to add something about fashion in your bio here because you're killing it. And last but not least, we have the wonderful Sophie Sullivan, aka Jody. We're going to get to that. A Canadian author, as well as cookie eating, Diet Pepsi drinking, another Disney enthusiast who loves reading and writing romance in almost equal measure. She writes around her day job as a teacher and spends her spare time with her sweet family watching reruns of Friends. She has penned many, many a novel. I have almost all of them here, missing one, which is coming soon, and has had plenty of practice writing happily ever afters as her alter ego, Jody Holford. Woohoo! Sophie Jody, what are we calling you today?
With 3 fans.
Oh, well, welcome. Thank you. And you are only forced to be here for 1 hour of your time. So thank you for being here today. I'm so excited to hang out with all of you. I am constantly geeking out over your books and geeking out over you online. So it's just like really exciting as a reader to get to share this little box with you today. So I just really, really appreciate it and am honored that you're all here.
Same.
I'm excited to be here.
Thank you.
Just gushing. I had to get it out of the way.
That's okay.
Girl moments. So it's going to be kind of a mix of fun. I was telling the authors off camera for a second here that, you know, I don't like to do things in a very standard way. Like I love to have a plan. Your girl loves a list, but I like things to have an outline, to have somewhat of a plan, but I also want to have a good time. So this isn't going to be your just standard Q&A. All of these authors have already done those. So Google them and you'll find those and read more about them. But this is more so just to have a silly good time, get to know the people behind the books, and also just talk about our love of the romance genre, hence my t-shirt today. Like I said, as always. So I want to start a bit with the wee early days of your lives. So kind of where your of the romance genre began. I know myself, I grew up very religious, so I wasn't allowed to watch TV or movies, but I was allowed to go to the library, and I wasn't restricted there, and I probably should have been.
The fools,
Because
the
I was
fools.
checking out everything, and I mean, my mom had some Harlequins definitely that she picked up at garage sales. Like, I would read everything I could get my hands on, and to be honest, like, even those scenes I was reading a few times over trying to figure out what was going on as a kid. And I would say that's where it all kind of began for me. But I'm curious, where did it start for you all? Like what made you curious about the romance genre? Anyone can start. We don't. Yeah.
I'm starting.
I'll start just because my love for romance and my love for Jane Austen are kind of, they come together. So just to set the scene for you, it's 1995. Everyone is just, saying cowabunga. We're doing 95 things. And what happens? Clueless comes out, right? With Paul Rudd. And she's like saying as if, and it knocks me on my little 12-year-old feet. I can't believe this is happening. But then in that same year, I found out that Clueless was a retelling of Emma. And I was like, Emma, well, who is this Jane Austen lady? Let me get in white folks' business. Let's see what's happening. So I started reading Emma. And then that same year, that Pride and Prejudice in 1995 came out in the BBC. And I was watching this and I'm like, this better not do anything to my body, and, it did. And then that Sense and Sensibility came out, where Emma Thompson's like having that like nervous breakdown on the chaise. Oh, you guys, I was unwell that year. I did not make it out alive. Okay. I have been voraciously reading about women with their backs against the wall and everyone them absolutely getting there happily ever after, like ever since, really.
And thank God you did.
That's fantastic.
I love that. Yeah, I kind of came to romance via chick lit. So that was definitely like, I am really the only reader in my family, so I did not have the opportunity to like steal my mom's romance books, which is truly a travesty. But I was like so into like the Bridget Jones, and like Jane Green was one of my favorite authors. And then like chick lit sort of just like died out and fizzled into nothing. And I think it was actually like a bookseller where I was like, where do I find books like this? And she was like, let me introduce you to the romance section. And I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest day of my entire life. And then from there, I was just like a goner. And I like Christina Lauren was definitely one of the first ones that I like read through everything that they had written. But then I also was like, oh my gosh, I can go on like, I think I was using like iBooks, whatever the Apple one is, and like buy all of these books for like 99 cents. And this is the best thing ever because I was, like a broke student at the time. So I just like started inhaling everything I could get my hands on. And I have never been the same.
Forever changed.
Well, I just realized I'm old when Nikki said she was 12 in 1995 and I had graduated. So we'll go back 10 years or so earlier than that. And my magazine, and I don't know that that's a thing anymore. And I've talked about this before, but they are these magazines that she always says she hates romance, but that's what was in my house everywhere. So they have all these, my sister's having my husband's baby kind of stories. And the best part is, I don't even know why they make you turn the pages, but you start on like page 7 and then you have to flip to like page 31 to finish the story. Like, it was a very strange, but it was a magazine all about romances and they were very quick reads. I loved them. I was like 11 or 12. So between that and Sweet Valley High and BC Andrews, fortunately I realized that wasn't so much romance as incest, but
we've all been there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's where I started. And then when I got a little bit older, quite a bit older, so I was having a garage sale and this woman was, I had a couple books out, and this woman who was like old enough to be my grandma, she's like, have you read Nora Roberts? I'm like, no. Oh, you need to. I was like, okay. So I went to the library and read every single, not JD Robb, because I like contemporary romance or whatever, but I read every single Nora Roberts I could, and that was it. Yeah. Just
And
love
if
it.
anyone knows anything about Nora Roberts, that is a feat in itself at any point to have read all of your library, because
at one point I had, so I was up to like 200 books. I had read everything she has until the most recent, like the last 5 years or so, just because, which is understandable. She's changed with the times in terms of like the content and stuff, and I can't handle. I just want this straight up romance. Like the forced proximity, we end up in the same house together, and well, we obviously have to sleep together. And, I don't want the bad stuff that happens in the world, which again, she's wonderful. I want the content that's just going to make me smile. So I haven't read as many recently, but yeah, my favorite.
I just want to give a shout out to just like all those like old, like those women. I just call them like old sluts, but like with love. You know what I mean? Who are just like reading this stuff, like getting high, and it's just like, let me hip you to something, youngin. And then they just slide that book over to you, and you're just never the same.
Right?
Like, everyone's had that experience of just like that hot grandma who's just like, let me hip you.
Like, what are you reading? Yeah. That's fair. That's good. That's a good shout out.
Oh yeah, honestly, just shout out. Like my auntie was just like, "Oh, you're 15, you're still reading for YA?
No. Let me show you how this works.
Let me show you exactly how this works." Okay?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's such like a healthy way to explore sexuality in a safe way too, as like a younger. I was like, I don't even want to say younger woman, because I was straight up a teenager. So but I
certainly
think
beats the internet, which is what a lot of kids are using. I would much rather. We've always had a rule. My youngest turns 18 next week, which we don't have to talk about. But she reads so much faster than I do, and she reads everything. And I'm like, you can read whatever you want, as long as if you have questions, you don't go Google it. You ask us first, or you ask someone you feel comfortable with, because I'm good with you reading whatever, but that's not where I want you to, I don't want you getting your answers from Pornhub. That's,
and just
so, please.
Especially like, I think it's different in queer relationships, but for straight relationships, like at least exploring through romance in my own circumstances, you kind of learn how to set your own standards a bit. Like, you've never been in these relationships, and I'm sure it applies across the board, but just learning kind of what you want, and like, oh, that exists. Like, you can ask for those things, and you can want those things, and that's okay. And I feel like that's such a cool thing to know. Like, you're getting a little bit of like experience without getting the experience in a bad way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Without even just asking what you want with friendships and relationships, and like, it's all in there, and it's really nuanced and powerful.
Absolutely.
You don't have to have all the conversations as the mom.
Yeah. So I want to make sure, of course, because, you're authors and you have jobs to do. So I want to talk about your book that you're currently, promoting, or your most recent release. But everyone always is like, what's your elevator pitch? So I decided to make it a little bit more chaotic. And you still have to tell us what the book is about, but you have to tell us from the point of view of your main character. So you're now telling me as it's your life. You can keep it brief. You don't have to go like hard on it. But, now you're presenting like, I'm the businesswoman in New York City, and the small town man is in my business, or whatever your plot may be. So good luck. Let's begin.
Okay. This is good.
Who wants to start?
All right.
I read this question last night, and I was like, I'm too tired. I don't get it.
I'll go first. I can
okay,
do this.
good.
I got this. Okay.
Okay.
So my name is Emmy. I'm in this lovely book right here called Right on Cue.
Nice.
I am a screenwriter, and I specialize in writing rom-coms, but I've had a little bit of a drought lately because my dad passed away a few years ago, and so that has really affected my writing. But I have written a new rom-com movie. I'm super excited about it. The only problem is that my best friend is directing, and we can't seem to find an actress who can play this lead role. And I haven't acted in like 15 years. I had a really bad experience the first movie that I made, and it just went horribly because I had this super asshole co-star who just made the whole thing awful. But basically our producer was like, either you do the role or we're pulling the plug on this movie. So I decided I'm going to do it. And I was really excited about it until I showed up to film the first day. We're filming at this adorable little inn. We're making this really cute, holiday-ish rom-com. But I showed up, and the actor that I was supposed to be co-starring with got hurt. He got injured. He had to drop out. And so I just run into the worst person in the world who ruined my first acting experience. And then I find out that he is the one that I have to act in this rom-com with.
Oh.
And I hate him, but he's really hot. So.
That was well done.
Falon, you're too believable. Melissa believed you. This isn't, we're acting.
She's sending hugs.
Aww. It's not real. It's real to the story, but
Yeah.
she's narrating from her main character's perspective.
That was well done. Did you practice last night?
No, but I used to be in theater, so there's that improv training for you.
Right, who's next?
Okay, I can go next. This is for Sex, Lies, and Sensibility.
Great title.
There is never a good time to find out that you're your dad's secret children. But when did I find out? At the funeral. And right when I think that me and my sister are about to cash in on our negligent father's enormous amount of dough, we find that we actually have nothing, and that his real family has taken everything from us except for a dilapidated inn in rural coastal Maine. Couple of problems with that. First problem, ain't no black people in Maine. What? What am I supposed to do with my irresponsible sister in Maine? But we don't have a choice. So we pack all of our things, our designer clothes, and we get to Maine, and we have not even shaken the dust off of last season Prada boots before we see a tall, dark, and handsome problem who is dressed like a camp counselor and is telling us that the inn we just inherited is his. Problems.
Good.
Yeah.
This is my favorite thing. I'm going to make everyone do this forever. Like,
this is fantastic. I'm so invested. I want to go to the B&B.
Yeah.
All right. Should I do Love Naturally or Can't Help Falling? Recent?
Whichever one you want.
Okay, I'll do this one. So this is Can't Help Falling in Love. I am Lexi. I was a former track star, so you know it's fiction. And my life fell apart a little, like Emmy's, when my dad passed away, and I realized that he was crumbling under a mountain of debt. So I lost my scholarship, and I've been trying to find my way back, helping my mom get over her grief. She doesn't want her life to kind of move on without him. I work at a dress barn. It's actually the same one that I worked at when I was in high school. So I'm doing that, trying to finish my last 3 courses and feeling like maybe I'll get out from under this with my new waitressing job. I'm epically bad at waitressing. It's not something I should do. And when my high school friends walk in, and I haven't seen them for almost 10 years, I panic. And I sit down with what happens to be an extremely good-looking man sitting there reading a Sandra Brown novel. And he picks it up real quick and decides he's my boyfriend. So I don't introduce myself again as a waitress. I become his girlfriend, and we end up at a party that night with my high school former besties, and somehow we end up engaged in the Seattle Times. So go from there.
Problems.
Yeah, big ones.
Sophie, my heroine is also a track star who's lost her scholarship.
Really?
Yes,
Okay, well,
yes, because
I'll be ordering your book as soon as we're done here. So
I
already love the title.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so
scandals abound.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That was super fun. Thank you for
That was fun.
I really enjoyed that. I'm like, this is going to be my new standard. Like,
Yeah.
you guys got to be the lucky guinea pigs of this series, and you killed it. So perfect.
That was easier than an elevator pitch too.
Honestly, it was.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll just set the industry standard.
What you doing?
Okay, so now we're going to play a silly little game. We are now writing a romance book together, all four of us.
Nice.
And maybe the audience if you want to participate as well. So I am going to do a combination of two things here. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Give me 1 second. All right, so we've got a couple different generators here.
Oh, fun.
Ooh.
I think, we are very much in a trope world at the moment, and we need somewhere to start the story. So tropes are a whole conversation we can get into some other time, but at least to give us a baseline here of where we're starting, we will start with our trope. So I have 10 different options for us here. This is either going to be a second chance, an enemies to lovers, a one bed, a friends to lovers, he fell first, fake dating. We had to put forced proximity in there, a grumpy sunshine, a billionaire, or a time travel, because it's got to get crazy, right? So let's set our scene here. All right, so friends to lovers. I think we can handle this. So starting with our friends to lovers story here, we are going to make Nikki pick the location. Where is the story set?
Okay, this story, do I pick the city or like where it's set? Okay.
Whatever, it's a creative, exercise, whatever you want.
This is set in the competitive roller skating scene in Atlanta.
I love this. Okay.
Yes.
Roller skating scene in Atlanta.
Yes.
Also, I'm not an actual writer, so sorry, this book isn't going to exist by me. If anyone wants a story at the end of this, someone else is going to have to write it.
We'll work on it.
Yes.
Okay, Falon, it's your turn. What's her job?
Okay. She is she's a doctor who has to take care of all the roller skating injuries.
Oh, okay. This is a very competitive roller skating scene.
Really?
Yeah.
Violent.
Yeah.
Very violent. Oh, it's like, what's that? There's a movie that I've been wanting to watch, and they're like roller derby. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Now we have to get his job. And I put some terrible ones on in here on purpose because I wanted it to get a little kooky. But there's some good ones too. So he might be a firefighter. He might work in computer IT. He could be royalty. He could be a movie star. He could, own some real estate and be a mogul. He could be a farmer. My personal preference in IRL. Bookstore owner, a pro athlete, or maybe he's like a club DJ.
Nice.
Really well in this world, honestly, that we're building. Let's see. All right.
Firefighter.
Nice.
I like it. You can never go wrong with a firefighter.
Win.
Okay. Let's see. How do they meet? Sophie Jody.
Well, there was a big competition happening at the roller derby. Doctors on call, on hand, because of course these things get really out of hand. And the aging popcorn maker at the concession stand starts on fire by accident, which means that there's injuries everywhere, not just on the actual roller skating rink, but behind the concession stand when the girl gets burned. So she's trying to help with that, and she's in the way because she's a doctor and actually has a job helping them. And the fireman's trying to get her out of the way, and she tries to get him out of the way because she's trying to deal with address the burn from the popcorn maker. So this is where it starts.
Yeah.
sensing a bit of like this like power play dynamic here
Yes,
too. It's
absolutely.
like want to be in charge because they're professionals
in
in
charge?
fields, and you're like,
Exactly.
I've got this, and he's like, no, I've got this. Get out
Yeah.
of the way. I mean,
This is juicy.
all right,
Please.
Fallon, what is going to be their kind of conflict? Like, so things are going, they're falling for each other, but where do things really like come to a head? What's the problem?
All right, you've given me my least favorite part of the writing process.
Conflict.
Which is coming up with a conflict.
Yep.
I just would love to tag in because I have a
Do it.
fan of. I thought of this even as she was saying this. Okay, that popcorn maker. Okay, suffered all these injuries at the rink and is trying to find the person responsible. And wants to sue one of them, but he can't remember which person worked on him, the doctor or the firefighter. So he has them both in his crosshairs, and now the power play goes in the opposite direction.
Yes, and there's your forced proximity because they have to recreate the scene together and figure out who was responsible.
Who was the last person to touch the litigious popcorn?
And we have like a mystery in here a little bit now. Look at this.
Yeah. I wonder
right.
if our publishers are listening. I'm all over this.
I'm available for unhinged plot lines. Anytime you need it, I got you.
Yes.
All right, Fallon, you got off easy. So maybe you can help us name them instead.
Name them. Okay. Well, he is a firefighter. I think he needs something like cool and maybe a little bit bro-y, like a little bit. So maybe we'll name him Weston.
Nice.
Nice.
I like Weston.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is.
And then her name, okay, so she's a doctor. She's super smart. She's got her shit together. We will name her Elizabeth.
Nicely done.
They go nice together too.
They do. Weston and Elizabeth.
Weston.
Very Jane Austen.
Honestly, it's giving.
Yeah.
That was not intentional, but we'll pretend like it was.
That's what I do with all of my books. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I meant to weave in there.
Totally.
And our last unhinged little spin here is what he calls her. And we are going to have to also reason to why he calls her this. So whatever we get here, it could be Pookie Bear, Sunshine, Shortcake, Mon Cherie, Captain, Foxy, Mine. That's a Taylor Swift reference. If you know, you know. Hollywood, Tornado, or Barbie, because I'm still not over the Barbie movie.
Yes.
All right, let's see.
Shortcake. Oh no, don't know.
Oh no! He's a firefighter who knows French.
He must be Canadian.
Wow.
Okay, see, you reasoned it so easily. I thought that was going to be harder, honestly. I just need to have a Canadian around. I forget.
Canadian he's from Montreal, right?
Done.
Yeah.
And they all lived happily ever after.
That was, nobody got sued.
And nobody got sued.
That's great. That's so funny. You know, I thought that was going to be a lot more chaotic than it was. It actually worked out pretty well. I should have known better. I mean, we got 3 professionals.
I mean, if we love
fancy.
I was gonna say, if we love a Marvel universe, then like I was thinking of Gambit because I'm currently watching X-Men 97, and I'm like, let's see a Gambit fan. Were they watching X-Men together and fell in love? I don't know.
I'm gonna have to like sneak in some Marvel stuff next time. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right. So kind of in a way to touch on some hot button topics, but in a different sort of way. So I am a notoriously, chronically online person on every platform, doing everything all of the time. It's my job, but I also made it my job. And so I'm never off the internet. And lately I've been on Threads a lot. So, you know, for those unfamiliar with Threads, the Instagram's Twitter. And I get it because people are just trying to get engagement and eyes on their accounts, of course, but there's a lot of the same topics popping up all of the time that are just we've already heard these things. They're hot topics, but they're not even hot anymore. They're cold. They've been around. So if there was one topic, for example, that you could just close the door on and never have to hear again, you're like, my word is the final word, you're done, what would it be? And my example for that is, I would say like audiobooks count as reading. Now we're done. We're never talking about that again.
Yeah.
What would be yours?
I don't want to alienate myself for life.
Well, you can pick something a little safer if you're scared.
I want to say the Kardashians are not fame worthy.
Hey, that can be
That's fair.
that's a take, you know? I think a lot of people would agree.
Yeah.
I think I would say that if you say that there are too many Jane Austen retellings, do you even go here? Right? Like, that's all. Like, do you
Good.
even go here? Right?
Book closed. Done.
Yeah.
Closed.
Mm-hmm. And also, like, those books were originally written how long ago?
Yeah.
So I think it's fair that we get something that's more modern. And also, all the people who read those obviously are still asking for it.
They're still asking for them. And then as more like people of color are doing these like amazing retellings, suddenly the shelves are stuffed. Suddenly we have just one too many. And I just find that a little sus.
Just one too many.
Yeah. I just find it a little sus, you know?
Yeah.
I agree. All right. No one can ever talk about it again.
Yeah.
It's done.
Okay. I feel like mine is people need to stop discounting books because of like one particular trope. Like,
Yeah.
stop doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Stop talking badly about, like, I feel like there are certain ones that are just like constantly everybody hates on, and it's like, don't do that. Just read the book.
Yeah.
Justice for Secret Baby.
Yeah. Yes.
Miscommunication. I will die on the hill defending the miscommunication trope any day.
Because it's real.
It's totally real.
It's
super
totally
real.
true to life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You mean you all don't have perfect communication with your significant others all of the time? What? Me with like my
And it never causes problems.
It's boring. That's boring.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's something too. I was kind of hinting at it a little bit earlier, but I feel like as someone who's worked in marketing for years and even been on like that side of the book world for a blip, and now that I like review books and I'm obviously a book fluencer for a lack of better terms, I think like tropes are an easy way to identify books and of course to pitch them. But like books are so much more than their tropes, and a good writer is a good writer. Like I hate telling people sometimes what books have those tropes or including that in my review because I don't want them to like credit it out. And sometimes just not knowing the tropes and going into the book and just finding out is so much more rewarding. And you're like, oh shit, she got pregnant. And I usually hate that, but this book was awesome. Like that's fine. That's great. You know? So
as a writer, I can say too, the thing with that is that I never start a book. I never started going, okay, the next one's going to be enemies to lovers, right? Like usually you get asked that question inevitably when you're, promoting the book, and it's like, oh, well, I have to dig through and figure out what they are because it wasn't something that I set out to do. My other least favorite thing is that people like this one, a couple of my last couple books are like insta love. And it's like, I hate insta love. And this book has it. It says right there. It says right there, there's insta love. If you don't like it, don't read it. Like if that is something you go by, right? But it's never even the insta love. It's not intentional. It's just the way the scene gets set up.
Yeah. I had this reel where the Goodreads review always starts off with, I normally hate retellings, or but I decided to give this a try. And I'm like, did you try this? Did you try?
Yeah. Did you try?
Yeah. You didn't. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Continuing just like staying in like the romance genre space. As writers, I'm curious because like I know you all read romance as well. And we've kind of talked about how like, well, especially Sophie was talking about it, but like reading for the sense of escapism and just like wanting to feel happy and to feel something. What if you had to pick like feelings or I often call it like the mood because my book club is called the Moody Readers. But what is something like you hope when your readers are reading your books that they feel? Like what's important to you to convey?
I
This
want
is
mine.
good.
I just want mine to laugh, honestly, and have fun with it. And I don't feel like I set out to impart like any great wisdom or anything like groundbreaking in terms of like themes or what my books are trying to do. So I just want you to enjoy it and have a good time and maybe swoon a little bit for the hero and maybe learn something, but probably not. And that's cool. And, like my favorite reviews and comments are like, I laughed out loud when I was reading this book, like that.
Yeah.
That makes my day.
Yeah. No, I'm in it for the swoon as well. That moment where, you've been waiting for him to just say or do something, or like not even like the physical, the kiss or whatever, but it's just he does something that is so in tune with what she needs in that moment where like your stomach drops a little in that perfect way where you're like, okay. And that, you feel it when you're watching your favorite TV shows or reading your favorite books. And that is what I just want. Those moments in other books that stop you and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe he said that. That's what I hope for.
You want that feeling, the like for my New Girl fans where like
where they
really kiss and they like
that is exactly what I want. So
yeah. I feel like I want a couple of things with my books. One, I want like my readers to feel the yearning, like that moment of like the thing about it, like a good slow burn is that it's just paint curlingly desperate for these people to be together. Like I want to transfer those characters' desperation like into my reader, for them to be like, holy, if they don't bone in the next 4 pages, I'm out. Like I want that feeling. Like I like to reproduce yearning, and I think that's probably why I love Jane Austen so much. The idea, not just like of the end bang boom, but like the feeling of wanting it so badly. And also, the swoon, but also like I kind of want to make you sweat a little bit when they finally do get together. I want to make you like drink water uncomfortably and slam the book closed when your kids come into the, what are you doing here?
I'm not doing anything.
I want you to shift uncomfortably in your seat as you're reading,
If you're not like embarrassed to be playing that audiobook in public, like he's not doing it right.
If you listen to my audiobook and you're like in front of your grandma, I did it wrong. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I will say, actually, I was finishing up the audiobook for Right on Cue, and I had switched from like I was turning my headphones off, and I was like in the kitchen with literally everyone, and the first word out of the narrator's mouth was sex, and I was like, I know better.
You gotta, Falon.
Yeah, you do.
Even my first Falon book. Like, come on, get it together, girl.
I was gonna say,
at least it wasn't at the end when they got back together.
Yeah, if you're in the end in the closet, then
no, that was later. That was a little later.
Yeah,
I'm sweating.
Nice.
But yes, I love that. All right, this might be too TMI in my question phrasing because I'm not afraid to go there, but you don't have to go as there as I do. Take it at your own pace. But with romance, in general, not just the genre, but like romance as the word romance. For women, it's obviously a lot harder for us to get in the mood. There's a lot more, time and certain this and that, we have to learn about zones. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. And I think it's interesting to think about in the sense of like, do you think that applies to being a romance writer? Like when you're writing your fun scenes or your really romantic scenes, do you have to be in that mindset? Like, do you almost have to like prep yourself to be like, I'm feeling romantic now? Or like now, is it a well-oiled machine? You can just turn it on, you know how to write it. I'm very curious because I'm like, I feel like when I'm at like certain phases of my cycle, I could write a really good scene, but I might have to wait for that point of the month, like I don't know. I never get to ask people these questions.
It's fantastic. I feel like I live in that zone, the romantic, kind of like this is what I always want to happen, and then I have to add in things to my books. It's like, okay, well, that's not actually realistic because you have to shut up from the computer for 5 minutes, and reality's right in front of you, and it's not always romantic. And I just want to live in those moments, and so I'm always good for it. But it's not. You have to weave in the realism with it. But yeah, I'm always imagining something more romantic than what comes out of my husband's mouth.
Real.
For me, it's a little bit of both. I definitely feel like I have to churn out certain aspects, like just get an outline in, or make sure that this character gets to the store, or like they get to the bedroom. But in those moments where I am feeling it, I like to like run to my computer and like turn it up a notch. Like I'm turning on filthy music, you know what I mean? I'm lighting candles. Like when I feel it, I press into it. And then the scenes that I write, like hopefully reflect that I pressed into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you do. Yep.
Yeah, confirm.
Done. You did it.
Yeah.
Check that box.
I feel like, I definitely used to, like when I was first starting to write, when I was going to write a sex scene, I had to it had to be at night after my kid was in bed. I had to have a glass of wine. Like I had to be like really like prepped and ready to go. But now my schedule doesn't really allow for that. So I just have kind of like had to get used to sitting and writing the scene when I need to write the scene. But I will say, like, I'm definitely one of those people where I like see the scene like playing out in my head, and then I kind of like try to describe what's like in my head. It's like a movie, and so then I just have to describe that and get that on the paper. So if I know I have like a first kiss scene coming up, like I'll try to, like the night before I'm gonna write it, like kind of envision that like as I'm going to bed that night, and kind of like play that over in my head, so that way like when I am, because I do most of my writing while my kid is at school, so it's like 8 a.m. So not like not the most romantic time of day. But if I've like kind of lived with it in my head a little bit the night before, then I find it easier to kind of like get into it the next morning.
That makes sense. I like how they're all like different too, and I'm sure situationally it's different too. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
And Falon, what is that like? What's the delta between? Because I also see the parts rolling right in front of me, but like sometimes when I'm writing it down, it's like that song of like Earth, Wind, and Fire comes on, and then like you cut to it and it's someone playing a kazoo. It's like there's this delta between like what you're seeing and then like what happens when you start tapping, and you're like, this was so much hotter in my head. Like, why can't I put it?
Which is why I don't write actual sex scenes, because it comes across like a really bad how-to. Right?
Yeah.
This is how this actually works, so I don't do that. I leave it to experts like you guys.
Yeah. I'm like a layerer in all aspects of my writing. Yeah. So a lot of times it's like get down like the movements.
Yeah.
Like
the balls connect to the knee bone.
Yeah. Like
talk about this conversation as we've used tap it, get down, and we're all just skimming over it. Okay. Keep tapping.
So go. Sometimes the first draft is like the mechanics, and then it's going back and layering in. And actually, Alexa Martin, who was one of my Pitch Wars mentors,
I was just gonna say that
many years ago. She was like, a sex scene is about what happens between the eyes, not the thighs. And I was like,
that's what she told me. That is excellent advice. It's fantastic.
Because you really have to. It's like, so yeah, you can do the mechanics that first time around, but what actually makes a sex scene interesting and special and different is the connection that is happening between them in that moment.
Yeah.
And I will say, I appreciate with both of you, you don't overdo the mechanics. Like, it's very confusing for a reader to like try to figure what to wear, and like it's choreography essentially. And it's same for me reading a knife fight or like a sword scene. Like my brain doesn't brain very well in those circles.
No, it can't. It doesn't. Something that Carly Bloom, who was my mentor for Pitch Wars as well, Carly Bloom said, like the mechanics are actually the least important part, because everybody knows how the parts fit. Essentially, she's like, you're not gonna blow anybody's mind with how the parts fit.
What goes where? What?
You mean to tell me that it did what? You can't surprise people with mechanics. Like you can't break new ground with that. So
Well,
I try not to make it the whole point.
I will say, as someone who doesn't write open door, I mean, I don't know that I don't write open door, but there's a lot of swearing, so I get a lot of flack for that. That it's closed door in one sense, and they say fuck all the time. But okay, this is what I was going to apologize for, because now I've said Pornhub, Kardashians, and fuck. So
we're adults here. We're good.
My pre-apology. I will say Alexa's advice as someone who doesn't write the mechanics or the open door, Alexa saying that made me feel so much better, because I often feel that sometimes my books are overlooked because, I had someone say I would have given this book 5 stars if they'd actually had, sex on the page. And I'm like, so do I go there not feeling 100% comfortable with my ability to do that well? Or do I just keep doing what I'm doing and hope I find the right market? And Alexa saying that made me feel like regardless of what the mechanics are, it is about the connection, right? Like you can. So, and that just kind of made me feel like, okay, there's a place for all of it, but it doesn't negate how important and special it can be, even though the mechanics aren't on the page, right? So I like that.
Another thing that particularly about sex scenes that I love about them is, there is this way, we are exploring, the relationship genre, right? And we're trying to find out who these characters are. And the reason why I love sex scenes is that you get to see this aspect of this character in almost their base form, right? Fundamentally, is this person generous? Fundamentally on the basic level, is this person good, thoughtful, kind? Does he respond to someone else's stimuli? How is this person on this, when everyone is trying to kind of get precisely what they need, how does this person kind of react in that environment? And it's just another opportunity for authors to show readers who this hero and who this heroine really and truly are together. Sometimes we use bad sex to do that as well,
I think
that's very cool.
It kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier too, about even with the tropes of even the ones people don't like can be done well.
Yeah.
And even when I'm recommending Sophie's books all the time, and I
adore you for.
And I have been since the first one too. And I am someone who reads primarily open door romance, and that's my bread and butter. But there's something in these books where I'm like, no, I don't care. I'm gonna make you read a closed door romance because she's doing it right.
Yeah.
I still I think it took me the second or third book of yours to even realize that I was like, oh, that wasn't even there, was it? Because I was just so caught up in the story and the love story. And it doesn't have to be there if you're hitting your other marks.
Right.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Of course. All right, we're gonna play one more silly little game, and it's gonna start tame and then it's gonna get a little evil.
I love Falon's face.
So of course we just discussed it's a this or that game. So we kind of just discussed closed door, open door. I think we know where we all stand on that one for the most part. But let's say fake dating or marriage of convenience.
Marriage of convenience is the most god tier.
I knew you were gonna say that. I know.
If I could pull off a modern marriage of convenience that felt really real, just my kingdom. Honestly, it's the reason why I love historicals, because no one can fuck up a marriage of convenience like historical. It is so good. Anyway, my absolute favorite trope. Absolutely.
I do love a marriage of convenience.
I'm gonna go fake dating, but
I knew it.
Christina Lauren's new book, The Paradise Problem, is marriage of convenience, contemporary, and it is perfect. It is my favorite CeeLo book in years. It is fantastic.
We're doing it. We're doing it live, folks.
Now I need to read that.
So good.
I don't know. I think I'll probably go fake dating as well. Even though I do love to read Marriage of Convenience. See how I just straddled the line there?
You can like it all. It's just a game. Okay. Inspiration from real people or like celebrity online people?
Like who? Taylor and Travis?
Yes, they could definitely be one.
Yeah, I definitely get a lot of inspiration from like not just I just celebrity, but like shows and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think real people you have to go out of the house to get inspiration. So.
I definitely feel the real people. Like there are instances where I'm just like out engaging with people and we'll have a conversation and hear the most unhinged stuff. Like I feel sometimes that real life is much more, it's crazier than anything, right? In a romance. Like if you ask two people how they met, it's oftentimes crazier than any romance. Oh, he was my best friend's husband. And you're like, what? But like, yo, I feel like talking with real people. I think maybe I'm a cultural anthropologist. And so like talking to people is one of my favorite things. But like you just hear the most unhinged stuff. And sometimes it just ends up coming right out of my character's mouth, you know?
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely get my inspiration mostly from like pop culture stuff. Yeah.
All right, I've got some specific ones for each of you. So this is where it gets a little evil. All right, for Sophie Jody. The male main character is either the ex's dad or the ex stepbrother, but the parents aren't married anymore.
Ooh.
The ex's stepbrother.
I actually thought of Clueless. I was waiting for it.
Yeah.
Hello, ex-stepbrother.
Yeah.
All right, Nikki, our queen of retellings.
Yes, yes.
Are you going to write a retelling that's loosely based on Shrek or Despicable Me?
Oh my God. Oh, this is evil. Okay, okay.
So
Here's why Shrek really gets down. Okay, Shrek gets down for a variety of reasons, right? He has this like he's traveling, but he also like doesn't have this companion yet. He thinks of himself as big and awkward. He has a wound, right? He has an initial wound of seeing himself as this, ogre who wants to be left alone because that's what ogres do. But he just hadn't found the right ogre.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Happy sunshine.
I honestly think Shrek could be such a good retelling, and I was really
Right?
you would say that.
Honestly, speak on it. Okay.
And like,
It's out
I
there
feel like
somewhere.
it would be really great if it wasn't pitched as a Shrek retelling, and then like a year later it was revealed. Like, that
Yeah,
would be
yeah,
really
definitely.
good.
Definitely.
I'm sweating.
You also want like very like elevated, right? Like have like Jodi Picoult write it, and it was just like, this is such a fantastic book. And she's like, got you, dummies, this is Shrek retelling.
Yes, that's exactly what I want.
Oh, that's awesome. That would be fantastic.
All right, this one's for Falon. It's a setting, this or that. It's a rundown small town, and I mean like straight up one horse, like rundown, not even in a cute way. Like this is just shit. No one wants to be there. Or the entire book is based in a grocery store.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my gosh.
I've read a book that was based in a grocery store.
Seriously?
Oh.
Not a romance, but
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I could have some fun in a grocery store.
I think you could do it. I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to, but I.
you have to choose one.
Fallon,
So
beautiful.
this
Honestly,
next
I'm
one-
getting like spill on aisle 3, but like spill is
Nice.
love. Like,
Clean up on aisle 3.
oh my God, clean up.
Whoa, workplace romance.
There's so much. There's so much, Fallon.
I feel like you could do it.
So this is inspired by something I've been seeing pop up recently. I don't remember. I think it might have been Abby Jimenez's book. She gave her character a very interesting outfit, and I know this is an area that a lot of authors struggle on, and they admit it openly. And she herself was like, "You got me. You're right. That I'm not going to do this anymore." So for Sophie, the female main character is wearing Bella's outfit in Twilight. For those who don't remember,
I remember.
Edward says that she looked like tantalizing or something ridiculous, and she is described as wearing a long khaki skirt. and a blue blouse.
Tantalizing.
So that's one
That's actually
option.
the definition of tantalizing.
Super, super hot.
Jackie always is.
And your other option is your female main character is always wearing a giant leopard fur coat, no matter the season, with some sort of sequins underneath. I had to make it worse because a fur coat could be cool.
Yeah. It's the leopard that really does it, though. I think if I actually have to write, I think that she has to go with the khaki skirt just because of the sex appeal, right?
Oh my god!
Yeah, I know, right? I'm like, no, I was gonna go with the leopard print, but then the sequins underneath is too much, right?
Yeah, I had to push it over the edge. I had to.
Too much or not enough?
Too far, Hannah.
Right?
Too far.
All right, we're almost done with the game. For Nikki, no jokes in your entire book as someone who really gets me giggling, or you have to put a joke on every page.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. No jokes. Who is writing this?
You
No
are.
gags, Falon. You know me. What am Okay, no gags. Or too many gags and it's slapstick. Oh my god. Which one? Which one?
Slapstick.
Okay, like I can let me get into my women's fiction bag where everyone's sad and no one's having orgasms. I can do that.
More Jane Austen-y, right?
Yeah, it can get deep. Jane Austen's really funny, That's but I could get into my I don't know, I could be sad girl. I could be sad girl. I'd rather have no jokes than have to write a gag a page because then somewhere on page 30 you're just like, I'm closing this.
All right. Last this or that for Falon. So you are in every book, same characters, new conflict and new setting.
Oh, face. Your face.
Or they're new characters this time, but now it's the same conflicts and same setting in every single book.
I mean, I feel like I need new characters each time. And
I'd be okay with the other.
There are people out there who would probably argue that my conflicts are all the same anyway. So.
You just
Nice.
These haters to me. I've got you. I will be in your DMs for you. I got you.
We'll find them.
I can take
I
it.
will. All right, we are coming close on the hour mark, so I do want to be conscious of your time, but I'm trying to figure out which of my questions I want to leave it off with. Let's see. All right, this one's kind of a two-part question, but it's an important one, so I think we should talk about this one last. So romance in general, I feel like as a genre, and that's a big reason I wanted to host this series, I just feel like it's not taken seriously. You as authors know more than anyone. I'm sure that you get a lot of comparisons like, oh, you just write romance and those types of phrases. It's often very scrutinized, very belittled. And it's bizarre because if anyone does any amount of research, romance is the #1 best-selling genre of books. So we are technically businesswomen following the money on paper, first of all. But I also think there's other conversations there about how romance really paves the way in a lot of different concepts that people don't think about. And then it bleeds out into other book genres. So, for example, right now, I feel like we've been seeing it for a while, but romance is really setting the scene with making sure to first of all, amplify BIPOC authors. We've been demanding for diverse characters. We've been demanding queer stories. We have been doing this. We've been doing it for a long time, and now it's getting more popularized. And I'm not saying we're there yet, because obviously it's a long road ahead. Yeah. But I think we're doing this more than other genres. And even in, for example, the mental health spaces, I know Sophie writes about some really phenomenal anxious characters and has some really great anxiety rep that a lot of us can relate to. I'm wondering how you personally kind of think about adding these modern elements into your story to reflect real people, real people we see in the real world, real problems, real diversity. So what's important for you to, write these stories to make sure that those elements are seen? And Nikki kind of touched on this earlier, but what are some authors, like you said, Miss Bev, who have been doing this that you just kind of want to give their due, where you're who's been doing this? It's not just us, of course. Yes. but like, who's an author who's been doing this for a while that you want to like give some shout outs to? So that was a big question.
That was.
I want to end on something, not just silly, fun, good times.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
question.
Well, I'll answer the first question first, and the reason why I feel it's so important to make sure that people of color are like having a happy ending, getting like finding love, having a soft place to land is that oftentimes in the media, there are certain ways that people relate to like the Black story or the Black experience in America, right? And that's like 12 Years a Slave, or, like a narrative that, that centralizes civil rights struggle or pain. And that's not to say that those things aren't important or didn't happen. But while all of this was happening, people were falling in love and experiencing joy, and that no type of resilience can ever actually happen without joy or without love at the heart of that. And so just like focusing on those instances of joy between my characters, and making sure that my women don't have to be like hashtag strong Black women with the whole world on their shoulder and no one seeing them cry, that they have this soft place to land, and they just get to be, like bubble bath girls. Like that to me is a small little revolution still, to not be all about the work. And honestly, there are so many authors who have been doing this for like, I feel like even to list is to almost exclude, right? But like some of my favorites, Kennedy Ryan, Miss Bev, Rebecca Weatherspoon. I mean, even like in the aspect of like writing neurodiverse characters, writing queer characters, right? There's so many authors that are doing this right now. Regina Black also just like writing characters that just absolutely eat. Again, even to list is to somehow miss someone, but I think there are just so many out here doing it now. I do think, to your point, that romance demands more of the author because of that.
Well, and it's something that we all, well, hopefully most of us want and, experience for ourselves or aspire to have for ourselves. So I think it's very realistic, and people look for those real moments. And yes, we also want to escape and have fun and have it be a little bit not realistic too, but right, it's scrutinized even by the readers very intensely because of that.
I love what you said about the joy piece. I just actually, because I do teach grade 6 as well, and I'm constantly looking for, you want something in your classroom, you want something in life that represents everybody. And I just finished reading Black Boy Joy, and the whole opening was about, there's other stories out there. And again, it's not to negate the fact that the other things happened, and it's hard is to say that like pure moments of joy have to exist everywhere for the rest of it to exist. And I do think sometimes right now, like I think of a book I wrote several years ago that had 3 Black homeless boys in it, and she was this privileged white woman, and she moved into the house and they were squatting in the house. And I think that's not a story I could tell now that I've learned more, and it's not possibly not my place to tell. I think that I'm more cognizant of those things. And sometimes it's hard because I want to represent what is real to us. And, there's mental health all through my family. And we also have a very diverse group of friends, and you want to represent that, but you also don't want to step on toes and represent it in a way that is not your own sexuality. I think for me, and I'm going to say this, it's probably going to be the wrong thing to say, I think it's a safe one because, I have a lot of familiarity with, kids identifying in different ways in my own children and my own life, and the mental health piece. So I think more recently, I focus more on those pieces that I feel like it's okay that I'm in that space that I can share it. I agree with Nikki that it's hard to list and think. I'm always in awe of Taylor Jenkins Reid because technically I think there's moments that those characters might not, they can't be her actual frame of reference in her life personally, but she does such an amazing job representing so many different walks of life and in every way. So I think that she's a really powerful one to.
Yeah, it's important to reflect the world around you and
It is.
the real world. And I think if books are intentionally doing that, you know, we're on the right path, but also having these conversations is how we get to the right path. So,
Yeah.
you know, it feels a little uncomfortable. Like obviously we're all not giggling the way we were, you know, 10 minutes ago. And it's some uncomfortableness you have to sit into, but that's where the learning and the growth is. And I think like that's where we've like started to talk about like sensitivity readers are now a thing that's becoming more normalized and required, which is just awesome. So I think it's important where we're like, okay, what is the lane that we are comfortable with? But also how do we get into the uncomfortable and explore that and, you know, get out there? I don't know. It's all important.
It's actually a young adult is also another area that is often kind of looked down upon because of it, you know, for in terms of value, just the way romance is. And I actually find my 18-year-old and 21-year-old teach me so much about the fact that, okay, Mom, this isn't your story to tell. This is a way you could do this. You could get a sensitivity reader. And so I feel like that younger generation of readers is kind of making sure that we're, like for me, that I'm telling the right story, that I'm, you know, sharing the right point of view and being cognizant of it. It's not that I don't want to tell a story. It's that you're learning to respect which areas of the story you get to tell.
Mhm.
And so I think the younger readers, my own kids anyway, kind of open that door and make me more aware of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like I've definitely gotten the question before, like, how did you decide, you know, like which diverse characters to include in your books? And for me, it's not like a decision. It's just like this is how they come to me in my
Yeah.
head, and it's because that's what my world looks like, and so that's the world that I would put into my books. Like I don't know anything different, so I don't sit down and make a conscious decision like, okay, this character is going to be, you know, queer.
You're not checking the racial tip.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think that it's so interesting because romance is so looked down on by so many other genres.
Mhm.
But it is, I think, in my opinion, as somebody who reads very widely, doing work that I'm not seeing in other genres at this point in time. And it's like you said, it's like we're taking a lot of credit. We're kind of doing the work right now, and we'll see it trickle down into the other genres later. But I don't think that is like an accident. I think it's like romance, of course, has its issues and its problems, but as a community, I feel like we are very open and inclusive and looking to embrace, you know, everybody. And that's not to say that we don't have our issues and we don't still have work to do, because of course we do. But I just think that you don't see that in litfic. Like the litfic bros are not reaching down a hand to bring everybody into their circle, you know,
because it's not relationship driven, right? And romance it's all about relationships, and to build something around relationships, whether it's the, you know, the quirky best friend or the love interest, it requires looking at representing what you see, right? And what you feel and what you experience.
One thing that I want to give you credit for, Falon, that's something that I've started paying more attention to recently is, I mean, obviously I am a white woman, and so I often read a lot of white books, and I've had to, you know, be more intentional about it. And even like the algorithms, as we all know, they don't prioritize BIPOC creators. So that's something I've like really gone through my feed to like find them and make sure that that's the content I'm being shown. And one of the conversations that I've heard in the last year that really struck a chord with me was talking about how so many white authors, when they're writing any character, even side characters, when the character is white, they don't describe the color of their skin. And it's like, why are we the default, you know? And I can honestly say that wasn't something I had thought about before that, because of my own lens and my own bias. And then I started seeing it everywhere. It was like when someone buys a car that you've never seen before, and now you see the car everywhere. And I was like, oh my God, everyone's doing this. And then when I was reading Right on Cue, you describe every single time. And I was like, this is normal. Like, it feels right, and people need to be doing this. So I just wanted to give you some credit for that, because that's something that I feel like a lot of authors aren't doing, and I hope to see more of. But it's, I don't know. I was like,
it can be-
that's the end of my sentence.
I agree that you did a wonderful job of that. I will say, as I often get scared that I'm going to do it wrong. And I think that's part of it too, which is why I think that we have to have those conversations, because you get all these, make sure you don't describe any skin colors like, related to food or anything like that, whether it's, creamy skin or whatever. And so you become sometimes scared to do that as well. And I do love the way you just like, it's just right there. This is what you see and moving on. Yeah. It's like what,
It's just a color.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
And it's honestly, it's the bare minimum, and it's the easiest thing to do as a writer. And it's something that, I mean, like, I write in first person. So it's like, if I am meeting a new person, this is what I'm seeing. This is who is in front of me. So that's going to be, like what registers in my head. And it just, it's an easy thing to do. You just gotta,
I also feel, and I wrote this at the beginning of my book because I did write a indigenous male character at the beginning of my book. I do believe that any writer, any creative person who is writing, who feels fundamentally that they cannot like kind of embody another existence, like has to be okay with doing the work. I don't think that we should all just be writing like that. I'm just only going to write like Southern Black women in Texas, like I would just jump off a building if that's all I was kind of confined into. Or if I decided I'm going to write the Southern Black experience, I will be writing until, kingdom come, right? Because it's so multiplicitous. And so I do think that even the endeavor of writing automatically puts you in the head, tries to build a bridge of empathy between you and a person that you are inventing in a whole new world. And our ability to do that for other races, for other bodies, is part of what makes us writers. Like, what do we do? Do we even go here if we can't do that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's just it's part of the call, honestly, of a creative.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's beauty in the growth of going those places and learning. And I don't know. We all want to evolve and grow, and I don't know. We don't get anywhere without putting ourselves out there.
Yeah, I mean, if folks in building Bear, it was a back and forth with the community. I went to do research, and there were things in the original draft that sensitivity reader said this, or the community that I was speaking with said no, and like it's a back and forth. I think you have to just kind of make yourself vulnerable if you want to tell bigger stories.
Yeah. Be willing to learn and change, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what makes you good at anything, is that willingness to never say, okay, I got it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And to apologize when you get it wrong.
Yes.
so many times I was like, okay, got that wrong, scratch that out.
Yeah.
I have to say too, because this has also been going around on threads recently, and I just want to make sure, like, Adriana Herrera, I think, is the one who started like the thread about historical romance in particular, and how historical romance is not like getting a lot of love and a lot of attention these days, but we're just starting to see historicals written by people of color, like Adriana, like Liana de la Rosa, where we're getting like these amazing, beautiful books that we wouldn't have gotten 10 years ago. And we're now sort of like setting historical aside, just as we're getting the option to see all of these amazing new stories. And I think, like, I am somebody who does read mostly contemporary, but there are so many amazing historicals out there that are so good and just like so incredible and steamy and bonkers in like the best possible way. And if you are not reading historical, you need to
get into it.
Look at that.
I cut my teeth on historicals. Absolutely.
If you love Bridgerton, you will love these books. There you go.
Yes.
Segue. We're about to be back in our Bridgerton era next week.
Nice.
Hopefully we can, send some readers their way, because they have beautiful books as well. I love both of those authors.
I, for one, welcome our new overlords.
I love it. I love it. I wanted to take a quick second before we end the stream here to announce it here first for anyone who's watching this video. But I will be doing another one of these streams on June 22nd, same time, 12 p.m. Pacific. And the 3 authors attending this time will be Kyla Zhao, Sajni Patel, and Taj McCoy.
Oh,
Nice.
Fucking adore all of them.
that's great.
I'm what a word. I have a month to think about what to say to them. This took me long enough to prepare for.
Yeah.
So.
I love them.
But
Yep,
they're all
fantastic.
incredible. And so I wanted to announce that first so you guys can save the date.
That's awesome.
But whew.
Y'all.
Thank you. I like what
Yeah.
what are words? I'm just honestly like, this is so cool. It's like we all get to FaceTime and hang out. And I just
Yes.
really appreciate like the fun, honesty, and just like getting to know each other, but also like the fact that like, yes, romance is serious and should be taken seriously. And it's a real genre. And you guys are doing real things that are hard by writing romance. And I just wanted to do, my bit as a reader to try to like amplify all of your work, because I think you're all doing really special, incredible things. And I feel something special when I read your books. So if there's anything that I can ever do to continue to stay in
Thank
your
you so much. You're wonderful.
Thank
Just
you. Thank you
fantastic.
so much. Thank you for
You're
having me.
fantastic.
I have forced you to hang out with me for long
Just
enough.
wait till I force you to hug me this summer.
Yes. And I will be at Steamy Lit. So I
Same.
will be seeing some of you there and hugging you in
There.
person, if that is what you want. But thank you again for being
That is what you want.
I was like, wait, not everyone's a hugger. Let me take that back.
Hug me, Hannah.
Yeah.
Deal.
Yeah.
And thank you for everyone tuning in live and tuning in the future. Please make sure to follow these authors on social media, because that really helps them so you can stay informed on what they're doing next. Make sure to buy their books. And if you can't buy their books, get them from your libraries, because that actually does help them as well. And when you're reading,
Yep.
because it's important. And tag their publishers too, because they like that. Helps them.
They do like that.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for hanging.
Bye. Thank you for hanging
And
out.
happy reading. May all your books be 5 stars.